Hello, YouTube, and welcome to The Real Siberius. On this episode, I want to talk about three things that are extremely important in my life. This video really won't have anything to do with basketball, and yet all of these three will be applicable to sports and to life in general. And those three things are gratitude, compliments, and praise. Three things that I think are sorely lacking in our society these days. Gratitude, especially. I think we live in a society where people feel like they're entitled to all of these privileges, to all of their wants, to all of their desires, and yet they have an unwillingness to appreciate everything that they have. I'm still guilty of it myself. Before my accident, I was very guilty of it. And what do I mean by that? My life has been a double-edged sword. On one hand, I have been extremely blessed and have had the utmost privilege. And on the other hand, my life has been extremely chaotic, traumatic, and challenging. But I think most people's lives have probably been that way. There's the good and the bad. And it's so easy, especially in today's world where everybody shows off everything great about their life on social media. Look, I went on this trip and I went to this restaurant and I went to this place and I went to this show, and they're never ever highlighting the bad things that happen in their life. And I especially think when you're young and so much of your life is absorbed through your phone and through the narrative of people's lives that they're presenting, it's easy to think and be led astray that that's what their life is. It's, look at all this cool stuff I get to do. Look at all this cool stuff that I have. Look at all these cool people that I get to be around. But that's not the reality of their life. The reality of life is it's fucking boring. Occasionally you get to do cool stuff. I get to do cool stuff. But day to day, I spend most days completely alone and don't see another human being. It's not even necessarily by choice. It's by circumstance. All of my own making. With all that being said, there's a distinct lack of gratitude in this world. However bad your life is, however negative your perspective is, there's always someone that has it worse. I distinctly remember shortly after my accident, I had finally got to come home, and I spent a significant amount of time, probably the first 2 weeks that I was home, just lying in bed. My skull was still missing. I was still building or rebuilding a lot of strength. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. When you lay in a hospital bed for 3 weeks and you don't really move, your muscles atrophy extremely fast. And I had to learn to walk again. My brain was so significantly damaged that simple cognitive thought was complex and in many cases overwhelming. And I was afraid. So I would just lay in bed. I didn't want to get up and move around because I was afraid that if I fell because of my weakness and I hit my head, maybe there would be catastrophic results to that accident. And so I wasn't willing to take it. But I also wasn't building strength in order to circumvent that fear. Had I been doing more exercise to build more strength, that fear would have lessened because the likelihood of me falling would have diminished the stronger I got. But I would lay there and I would just feel sorry for myself. I didn't ask to fall down the stairs. I didn't ask for 3 traumatic brain injuries. I didn't know that I had fallen. I didn't know that my skull had been removed. That was a nice surprise when I finally regained some level of consciousness in the hospital a week after my accident. I didn't know that any of that had taken place. My brain just blocked that out. And so to me, I just woke up in the hospital one day and my skull's missing, my ribs are broken, I'm banged up, I have deep bone bruises, and welcome to your new life. So I felt very sorry for myself. And I thought, why me? Why did this happen to me? Life is so unfair. I've been cheated. And why all of that was true at that time, I absolutely felt that way. I made the choice to change my perspective, to have gratitude for the positives that I did have, of which there were many. But I genuinely believe that gratitude is something you have to embrace. Perspective is a decision that you make. They're not easy. They're not easy choices. They're not easy decisions. But I think they are. And I just wish there was more of that. I wish there was more of that in the world. Of people saying, wow, my life is shit. And it's hard right now. But I'm not going to let that defeat me. I'm not going to let that mental mindset take over my life and allow me to become bitter or resentful or angry, because it's my choice. This is going to end up being a long video, and I'm probably going to go down a lot of tangents, but all of this shit is very important to me. I remember shortly after my accident, I was looking for any level of understanding, looking for people that understood what I was going through. Because even though I talked to a lot of doctors and neurologists and neurosurgeons and nurses, no one knew my experience. They didn't understand what I was going through. I mean, they had their own personal experience dealing with it third person, but they didn't know the first person perspective. They didn't know how this affected me mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically. They couldn't know. And I hope they never, ever do know. But I needed somebody. I needed to talk to somebody that knew what the hell I was going through. And I got a little bit of it. One of my close friends, right around the same time, had a brain tumor. And evidently, it had been growing in his head for over 10 years. And it finally just got to a point where it was starting to affect him. And he ended up going into the emergency room. That's when they found the tumor. And he had to have immediate surgery to have it removed. So we had very different experiences. One being brain surgery to have a tumor removed, me having 3 traumatic brain injuries. But we at least had a a vague understanding of what that person was going through, of the hardship that they were having to endure. And one thing that I always found funny about it is we would sit together and we would talk about our experience. And every single time that he would start talking about all of the things that he was going through and all of the challenges that he was having to overcome, I just marveled at his ability to deal with that. And I just kept thinking to myself, I couldn't do that. There's no way that I would be able to handle what he's going through. And apparently he thought the exact same thing about what I was going through. So when we would exchange these experiences and exchange these stories, we both were looking at each other and thinking, man, he's way more brave and way more courageous and way stronger than I am to be able to endure what he's enduring. I couldn't do that. Even though we were both going through something extremely difficult, we just couldn't help but think, wow, that person's amazing for being able to do that, for being able to go through this. And this kind of leads into my second one of compliments. I hardly ever hear people compliment each other anymore. And that's something that's always been very important to me. Compliments and praise, and they kind of go hand in hand with each other. It's something that I got from my dad. Throughout my entire life, he was always proud of me. And I'm pretty sure I've talked about this in another video. But even the most pedestrian of accomplishments, he would just shower me in praise. And it was funny because at the time, I always thought, I didn't really do anything. Like, there's nothing special or profound about this accomplishment. Like, when my wife and I bought a house, that was an extremely big deal to him. And I think it was because he never owned his own home. So that one I can kind of understand. But I believe it was 2012 or 2014. I started really getting into vinyl records again. And that was always something that was very big in his life. And he would just dote over me whenever I bought a new turntable or I bought new speakers or I bought more albums. And I just always thought it was kind of silly. And then when he died and I no longer got that praise, I missed it terribly. But it wasn't there anymore. And so I remember the first time that I had that feeling, I thought to myself, I'm going to be that for other people, regardless of who they are or what they've done for me or whether or not they've praised or complimented me. I'm going to be there to champion them because that's what my dad did for me. And a lot of people don't have that. And it's so fucking needed. I don't care who you are. You could be the most hardcore person on the planet. Everyone likes to be complimented and praised. It feels good. I think there are individuals that have heard it so infrequently in their life that it may actually cause them a little bit of pain because they're not familiar with that. They're not accustomed to that emotion. And that makes me sad. My point is, with gratitude, compliments, and praise, is do it. Be grateful and have gratitude for the things that are in your life. Because I was just walking down a flight of stairs in my home that I had done hundreds, if not thousands of times, and it was almost all taken away. It can happen at any moment. Nobody sounds an alarm or waves a flag. It just happens. Like I said, I didn't even know that it had happened. I remember going downstairs. Like, I remember having the thought of, I'm going to go downstairs. And then there's just a huge blank for 7 days that I don't remember anything of. So if I had died, that would have been it. That would have been my last memory is, I'm going to go downstairs. You can't take it for granted. I took walking for granted because it just used to be something that I could do. And now, with the exception of in my home, if I'm leaving my house, I have to walk with a walker. And it's been 2 years since my accident. And I work out 6 days a week doing a lot of body weight squats, sit stands, leg presses, marching, walking in place, calf raises, all to help try to build the strength and stamina in my legs. And the reality is, I'll probably have to walk with a walker for the rest of my life. I'm 49 years old, and people in my family live well into their 90s on both sides. So I probably have a lot of years left, and I'm going to have to walk with a walker. And at first, it pissed me off. Now it's just the reality of my life. What it's done is give me an opportunity to continue doing things that I enjoy doing. If I were too proud and refused to use that walker, I'm not going to concerts anymore. I'm not going to places like the zoo or to a market or shopping or to the movies. I wouldn't be able to do any of that. So even though it's changed my life in a dramatic way, still grateful for it because there are people that can't walk. Hopefully, some people will appreciate this. Hopefully, some people will listen to this and maybe have more gratitude, maybe compliment and praise the people in their lives. And if so, that's fantastic. That's the reason why I did it. These videos don't do as well on my channel. My best videos seem to be the ones where I talk shit about LeBron, which, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love doing. But I would make the promise that if the media were to shut the hell up about him and never talk about him again, I would never talk about him again. But we both know that's not going to happen. Even after he retires. He's such a narcissist. He's not going to be able to shut his mouth. He's still going to continue with his stupid podcasts. And, I mean, all of the sports networks are such sycophants for him that they would probably allow him to be an analyst, which would be an embarrassment. But, I mean, it would give me a lot of content, which would be nice. Anyway, this has turned into a long video with a lot of tangents. And if you made it to the end, I certainly appreciate it. As always, I want to give a shout out to the content creators that have and continue to inspire me with this channel. Uncommon Sense, Angry Old Hoops, Self-Researched NBA Facts, 93Z, Sports and Fitness Rants, Uncut Hoops, Scap Attack, The Basketball Show, Speam Engine, In Your Face Hoops, Eddie TV. I always appreciate all of your guys' perspectives, insights, takes, and humor. If you have not already, please like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one.